All right, folks, so this is the brand new Samsung Galaxy Watch 5, which promises longer battery life, better heart rate accuracy, increased durability, as well as even more health and fitness features. Now, this video is more of a first impressions video where I'll be going over my initial results from my first bike ride as well as my first run, just to give you an idea of how it's looking, at least at launch in terms of GPS accuracy as well as hardware accuracy. And then in about a week or so, I'll have my full in-depth review of the Watch 5, where I'll have tons of different tests with lots of different types of activities. So make sure to subscribe to get a notification when that video comes out. Oh, and by the way, by the time that you're watching this video, I'll already be testing the Watch 5 Pro, and my first impressions video of the Watch 5 Pro will be dropping basically a day or two after this one. So make sure those notification bells are on so you can get a little bit of a when that video drops. Anyways, let's get to the Watch 5. So there's a few different configurations you can buy for the Watch 5. You can get a 40mm version or a 44mm version. And then there's also a Bluetooth version or a Bluetooth plus LTE version. And this is the 44mm Bluetooth version in black that I have for you today. And this is how it looks on my 187mm circumference wrist. And from a design standpoint, it's kind of hard to tell a difference between the Watch 5 and the Watch 4 non-classic version, but I think that's actually a good thing. Samsung does a great job with the design of their watches, and this particular design is actually one of my favorites, where it's simple and elegant, and I just love how the lugs blend right into the band. I love that. However, they've also strengthened the glass or lens on the outside, so now it's a version of sapphire, which will be a lot more resistant to scratches. It rocks a super vibrant 450 by 450 AMOLED display, and just like all Samsung displays, it's awesome to look at. And for the interface, well, it's basically like the Watch 4, where it runs its own little version of Wear OS, and you can use the Watch 5 with both Bixby as well as Google Assistant. But this year, there isn't a physical rotating bezel option, and it's just the touch bezel option. However, that may be a good thing. This Watch 4 Classic that I have right here, well, I do love the tactile feel of the bezel, but unfortunately, the bezel doesn't necessarily rotate as smoothly as when it was new. And then for battery life, they claim that the 44mm version should last up to 50 hours. So I had this fully charged right around 24 hours ago. I've gone a 30-minute run as well as an hour, 15-minute bike ride, both outside, and then I also slept with it last night. And as of right now, I still have over 50% of the battery life. So that 50-hour estimate is looking pretty solid. Okay, so now let's talk about GPS accuracy. And I first want to talk about GPS acquisition, as in how fast it's able to get a satellite signal when you first go to start an activity. So I've had historically bad luck with Samsung watches in regards to getting a satellite fix when I go to start an activity, but I am super happy to report that I'm not seeing that at all with the Watch 5. When I go to start an activity, it's able to get a satellite fixed in maybe 10 seconds at the most. And then for the GPS accuracy in regards to tracking distance on this run, that's super solid. However, on the GPS track side of things, in terms of the finer detail, I'd have to give it a solid where on some portions it was pretty good, on others it kind of veered off. On most of the straight sections, it held its line pretty well, but on corners, especially tight ones, is where it had more challenges. And then on this road ride, again, very good on the total distance compared to the other devices. The GPS tracks, well, this ride was basically all in the wide open with a lot of straight sections of road, and it did fine for the most part. There are a few sections here and there where it was a little off on the straight sections, but nothing crazy by any means. And then on some of the more curvy sections, again, pretty good with a few deviations here and there. So on the GPS side of things are looking pretty good, but now let's talk about hardware accuracy. So the new Galaxy Watch 5 comes with a redesigned heart rate sensor that's designed to sit a bit more flush on the skin, which in turn should also get better hardware accuracy. And for the accuracy on this run, well, for the first 8 minutes of the run, well, yeah, there's that which wasn't all that awesome, but for the rest of the run, it was actually pretty darn good. It can be common for a wrist-based optical heart rate sensor to take a few moments to lock on at the beginning of an activity, but usually it's just for a minute or two, but here it just took the Watch 5 longer. And then here's a road ride I did a bit later in the day, and road biking can be a challenging activity for a wrist-based optical heart rate sensor due to a lot of bumps and vibrations in the road, which can throw off these types of sensors. But as you can see here, it did a pretty decent job, at least on this portion of the ride. Here's the rest of the ride, and you can see it was kind of a fail mode. And just for comparison, by the way, the blue line that you see right here, well, that's just another watch using wrist-based optical heart rate. It's odd to see a heart rate sensor lose it for this long. Usually it's just some momentary blips here and there, but these are pretty long periods of time where it just lost its way. So for heart rate accuracy, at least for my initial test, well, you can see that it can get good readings at times, but when it didn't, it really didn't in the most epic fashion. Again, these are just my initial tests, so I hope this gets better over time. Oh, and another thing I was able to test for this video are the body composition measurement. So when the Watch 4 first came out, I was getting wild readings all over the place from 29% all the way down to 6 or 7%. But I'm super happy to report that with the Watch 5, I'm seeing a lot more consistent readings and stuff that's a lot more closer to reality. So for my initial take on the Watch 5, well, first off, I'm super stoked to see the battery life improvements. From what I can tell so far, it'll probably last close to 2 days, even with recording some outdoor activities. So that's really impressive. And then on the GPS side of things, I'm really happy there too, where GPS GPS acquisition is a lot faster than I've seen before, and GPS accuracy, I'd say it's probably totally acceptable, but not necessarily exceptional. Heart rate accuracy, on the other hand, well, you can see that it can get good readings at times, but when it loses it, it kind of checks out. But like I said, these are just my initial results, and I'll have lots more tests and lots more examples in my final in-depth review. So make sure to subscribe to get a notification when that video comes out, and also be on the lookout for my Watch 5 Pro first impressions video that I'll be dropping a few days after this one. And if the information in this video did help you at all, don't be shy about hitting that like button down below. And in the meantime, have fun out there, and we will see you in the next video.